Welcome to AI for a Better World. Today we're exploring how technology, and AI in particular, can do more than just wow us. Can it actually make a meaningful difference for humanity and for our planet? Joining us is someone who's been at the very edge of human innovation, engineering, entrepreneurship, spaceflight, and now leading XPRIZE, the organization that sets audacious global challenges, sparks radical breakthroughs, and helps innovators turn seemingly impossible ideas into solutions that actually change the world. Anousheh Ansari, it's such a pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the big picture. You see thousands of entrepreneurs using AI to tackle problems. From your perspective, what separates the teams that genuinely improve life for people and the planet from the ones just chasing scale or speed?
Well, as you can imagine, our work at XPRIZE is focused on finding those individuals who are passionate about solving problems. They're passionate about creating a better future for humanity. It's important to distinguish when someone is really looking at how they can impact the future. What we call it at XPRIZE is co-architecting the future. They have an end goal in mind, and the end goal is not just profit, it's impact. One of the prizes that this year we're going to award that makes, for example, heavy use of AI is our wildfire competition. So these entrepreneurs are building solutions and incorporating AI to be able to identify small fires and identify whether these small fires are dangerous and they have the potential to turn into wildfires and destructive fires or not. Once they make that determination, then they can, deploy technologies within 10 minutes to put out that fire and make sure they avoid massive loss of property and life. So to me, that's an incredible entrepreneur. That's an incredible company that will have a very successful business, and they are going to heavily use AI.
Sometimes things don't go as planned. What, from your perspective, is the biggest mistake that entrepreneurs can make?
What I've seen over and over, especially again when you're trying to solve a global challenge as you framed it, a lot of times you may not understand the problem and the setting where the problem manifest. So if you are just relying on some information you have and sitting in your nice labs in Silicon Valley and trying to design a solution, for example, to deploy in Sudan, and you have no idea what the conditions are where you're deploying this solution once it gets to Sudan, then guess what? Chances are that once you show up with your solution in Sudan, it won't work. One of the things we do well at XPRIZE to make sure those types of mistakes don't happen, we do two things. At the beginning, we do very in-depth research to really fully understand the problem, and we talk to the stakeholders, people who are experiencing the problem on the ground, people who are trying to solve it and have sort of hit a wall, and understand what are those barriers, what breakthroughs are needed, what policy changes are needed. The other thing that we do is we try to test the solutions at the end before we award the prize, and usually those tests and validation is in the place where the problem resides. We had a rainforest competition, for example. It was tested in the heart of Amazon. So I think those are mistakes, and what we've tried to do at XPRIZE is help those entrepreneurs avoid those types of mistakes.
Wonderful. Let's continue on this track of what sets the winners apart over time. Looking back at some of the successful XPRIZE projects, are there patterns you see in the teams whose work really sticks? If you could share an example of even one team or two teams whose innovations created lasting impact.
One of the things that is part of the prize that we focus on is the solution itself. Building the right product is just it's a big factor, but it's not the only factor towards success, because sometimes you may have the best solution, but if you don't have the right leadership, if you don't have the right business model, then ultimately you will not succeed. There's so many success stories in our ecosystem of companies who competed in our competition. Not only the top winners succeed, but a lot of times we see that the company that came 5th place, they all eventually succeed. Our Carbon Prize is a very good example. A couple of the top winners, especially our top winner, Matty Carbon, one of the reasons they were successful, and I think they were selected also as the winner, because they solved 2 sides of the problem. So they were actually taking rocks and crushing rocks to make a rich powder. The carbon credit that would resulted out of the absorption of the CO2 by these crushed rocks was what would feed Matty Carbon's business model. There were win-win solutions that was presented and was well received by the smallhold farmers.
Let's talk a little bit more, as you started on that track, about humans and all of this, human judgment. AI grows smarter. Where does human judgment still matter the most? How do the strongest leaders make sure ethics, values, responsibility remain at the heart of the innovation, even as the technology itself seems limitless?
Our society, our financial systems, our measure of success drives everyone to think short-term profitability. Good leaders, great leaders, are those who can explain their decisions in doing something, even though on the surface it may not align with short-term profitability, but long-term it will result in a successful company, but also a responsible company. So I hope that there are ways leaders can step up and show courage and make the tough decisions. When it comes to AI, there are lots of unanswered questions. There's a lot of areas that top leaders need to come together and work together and come to an agreement on how they're going to be moving forward more responsibly.
Very good answer. When you look ahead, what gives you optimism about the next generation, tomorrow's entrepreneurs? And in your view, what does building what matters really mean in the age of AI?
I love to think people think long term. When you're creating something, think about the legacy you want to leave behind and how what you're building would manifest in the future. Would the future generations look back and say, wow, look, this world that we have is only possible because so-and-so did this. So to me, that long-term thinking and envisioning a future that you would want generations to come to live in that future and be able to look back and be thankful about what we've handed them. I think people who are very young right now, they can't even imagine or predict what the future will look like. So all we can do is actually just nudge things in the right direction. I see a lot of anxiety in our young people, but they have hope and I have hope with them.
Great. Anousheh, this has been incredible. Thank you for sharing your insight, your stories, your vision for how AI can truly make a difference.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope we all get to see clear pathways to a brighter future.
Great. And for everyone watching, stay curious, stay bold, and remember, technology is a tool, but humanity is what gives it purpose.